Hello, world champions. Hopefully. Little spontaneous middle of the day thing here, if I can successfully get it going. There we go. And let's pop you out. Pennsylvania. Oh, just here. Oh, we might get a little double audio there. Sorry. Yeah, kind of a last minute thing. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Let me take this off of here. Hey! Hopefully the audio is okay. I had to throw this together at the last second. It's literally happening right now. There you hear it.
The yeas are 153. The nays are 50.
This is not the particular bill I'm talking about.
Voted in the affirmative. The bill passes finally, and the clerk will present the same to the Senate for concurrence.
See how this goes. Oh, there we go. Now I can hear. Hopefully you don't have double audio, and I set that all correct. I wanted to get this up before the vote on HB 1200, which has not happened yet. Let me show you my proof for that.
Agreed to. The clerk will read the title and a brief description of the bill.
A little bit under the chat, but right here, HB 1200, that's the one I'm talking about. What's going on, chat? What's going on? The legalization of recreational marijuana.
The yeas and nays will now be taken. Members will proceed to vote.
And so that is not what's being voted on right now. As soon as I can figure out where the hell my mouse is, we'll shut that off. We'll say hello. We'll chat a little bit.
All the members voted.
992 they're on right now. 992. Anyway, what's going on? World champions, hopefully no double audio on the video and things like that. We'll leave the audio kind of light in the background so we can hear when they come to this. It's probably going to pass. It's going to pass, this legalization of recreational marijuana. Sounds fun for sure. I hear you on that. Enact providing... Oh, okay. Talk a little bit, buddy. Talk a little bit.
And the nays are 0. The majority required by the Constitution.
So this is a voting session of the Pennsylvania House. Should happen fairly soon. It is going to pass. They are going to legalize the House anyway. Here we go. House Bill 1200, an act providing for the regulation and treatment of cannabis. This is where it gets interesting. Exemption from criminal or civil penalties for effect on cannabis convictions and expungements, and for membership and duties of the Liquor Control Board, establishing Pennsylvania cannabis stores. The state will own the stores. Look at all this social and economic equity for license, permit, other authorization, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it will legalize recreational marijuana. What it will also do is forgive all previous marijuana-related criminals and establish state-owned marijuana stores. I was just looking up this research on Colorado, which has been the guinea pig for all of this. Ooh, that looks awkward. I should have flipped my camera.
Chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 1200.
Oh, here it is. Look at that timing.
One on page 2 of supplemental calendar A. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The clerk will read the title and a brief description of the bill.
This bill provides for the legalization and regulation of adult use cannabis.
This bill has been considered on 3 different days and agreed to. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? On that question, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Mercer, Representative Bonner.
So good timing. Yeah, it's going to be bad. Colorado, for every dollar they've made in marijuana revenue, they've spent $4.50 dealing with the consequences.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here's Krajewski.
Mr. Speaker, I raise
I lied. Krajewski
2
sponsored
constitutional challenges to House Bill 1200. The first challenge to House Bill 1200 involves Article 5, Section 9 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. And with the Speaker's permission, then, I will address the violation that House Bill 1200
kill these lights that are reflecting.
Sets forth as a violation of Article 5, Section 9.
The gentleman may proceed.
There is a mistaken belief that only the courts are responsible for determining the constitutionality of laws passed by the legislative branch of government. That thought is wrong under the United States Constitution, and it is wrong under the Pennsylvania Constitution. Legislatures in the General Assembly take an oath upon being sworn into office that they will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Each time we vote on a piece of legislation in this great chamber, we are to consider whether that vote is in accord with the Constitutions of the United States and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As I cast my vote today, I have determined that House Bill 1200 is in violation of two essential provisions of the Constitution of this Commonwealth. Therefore, I must vote against this legislation, since I believe that the legislation violates the Pennsylvania Constitution, and I, just like you, have taken an oath to uphold this Constitution. Article 5, Section 9 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, entitled Right of Appeal, states that there is a constitutional right of appeal in all cases, from a court of record to an appellate court. The language is plain. The language is direct. The language is mandatory. The language has been one of the most basic rights for free men and free women for centuries under law. The need and justification for the right of appeal from a lower court to a higher court is the recognition that judges, who are men and women, do make mistakes, and everyone should have the right to one appeal to a higher court to correct a mistake. No one and no legislation, not even House Bill 1200, can take this right away from any person in this Commonwealth. However, in Section 5015 of House Bill 1200, the Court of Common Pleas in every county of Pennsylvania is given the authority to hear any challenge to the placement of a cannabis store which may be in close proximity to a church, to a school, or a private residence, and to approve or prohibit its location as the court so finds. But, and this is a big but, this section goes on to state that the court's determination shall not be subject to an appeal. This language, forbidding the right of appeal from a common pleas court decision, is in direct violation of Article 9 or Article 5, Section 9 of the Constitution, which gives every man and every woman in this Commonwealth the right of one appeal from the initial decision of a court of law. You are faced with a clear constitutional challenge today. You can ignore your oath to support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and pass House Bill 1200. Or you can, as many legislators throughout the great history of this nation and this state have done, show your profile of courage and cast your vote in accord with the oath that each of us has taken, your commitment to the rule of law and to the Constitution. In the first floor speech I gave in this historic chamber in April of 2020, I said that the most impressive part of serving in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives are the people that I served with, intelligent, compassionate, committed, on both sides of the aisle. I also said that we were all in this together, and I still believe that today. And I believe that we will show.
If you're just
today
joining
that
us, we're talking about the Pennsylvania House voting on House Bill 1200. It is happening right now. This is the first Republican opposition. The bill is about ostensibly the legalization of recreational marijuana. I get you in the chat saying, sounds awesome. Sounds fantastic. We have a model for this already. It's the state of Colorado. And right off the bat, the key statistic there is that for every dollar of tax revenue Colorado brought in, they had to spend $4.50 fixing all the fucking problems that it caused. So it's not even a moneymaker, provably. The other thing this bill does that they're sort of hiding when they talk about it, the left anyway, is that it lets out any marijuana-related criminal and makes punishment for any of those crimes no longer existent. Also creates state-owned cannabis stores. So it's not like I'll be able to go up open up a weed shop.
Gentlemen, is in order, may proceed.
He's still going? We still ranting?
Thank you,
Gentlemen,
Mr.
will
Speaker.
spend, there you go.
I would make the motion that we defeat today. Not that we
So as he's kind of filibustering here, understand our governor is a Democrat named Josh Shapiro. And when I say the state will own all the stores, you can think of that as Josh Shapiro will own all the stores. Fun. Exciting.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman.
Ooh, I see the deacon in the house.
Chair recognizes Minority Leader, gentleman from Bedford.
All right, let's hear the minority.
Thank you,
leader.
Mr. Speaker. I move that we challenge the constitutionality of HB 1200. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman.
Oh, I'm
Representative
sorry.
Topper moves that
Republicans
House Bill
are the
1200 is
minority.
unconstitutional. The chair, under House Rule 4, is required to submit questions involving the constitutionality of matters of the House for decision, which the chair now does and recognizes Representative Topper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman from Mercer made many good points, and I support them all. Thank you.
Yeah, you're starting to get it, chat. Seems fun at first.
Those voting aye will vote to declare the matter to be constitutional. Those voting no will vote to declare the matter to be unconstitutional. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? All the members voted.
They're just voting on whether or not it's constitutional. Again, we have mostly Democrats.
Clerk will record the
No,
vote.
I'm not smoking
On the
a joint.
question of constitutionality, the yeas are 102, the nays are 101. The majority having voted in the affirmative, the constitutionality of the matter is sustained.
What's going on, Mockler?
Question occurs.
102
Does the House
to
agree with House
101.
Bill 1200? On that question, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Mercer, Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a second motion that House Bill 1200 violates the Pennsylvania Constitution, and in particular, it violates the separation of powers doctrine, Article 5, judiciary, and Article 3, legislature. It also violates Article 4, Section 9, regarding the
going on,
powers
William
of the
Downs?
governor for pardoning, commutations, reprieves, and fines.
Right, as you're kind of saying, marijuana is one of the issues at hand here. Maybe it's not even an issue. The problem is the bill, is the state taking control of it. So this is framed as, oh, recreational marijuana will be legal. What's really happening is we'll own all of it. None of you will own a store. We will. How do you think that's going to go? And then there's all the other shit about all the problems that it will cause. If you don't know, Pennsylvania does have legal medical marijuana, and it is extremely easy to get a medical card. So there's pretty much no barrier to it in that regard.
Does the gentleman wish to continue as you were Recognized for the second time.
I am all for people
So you
being
may
able, or
proceed.
adult Americans being allowed to choose what they want to use and not use. That is not what I see happening here. That's why
Thank you,
I
Mr.
take issue
Speaker.
with it. State already owns liquor. Yes, they
Mr.
do.
Speaker, it is with great disappointment that a very clear provision of the Pennsylvania Constitution was not recognized. But I go on to set forth
There we go.
for the consideration of the General Assembly another violation of the Pennsylvania Constitution as part of my general remarks. Mr. Speaker, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued a ruling in 1977. It involved a felony conviction, interestingly, for possession of marijuana, which the statute at that time said was a felony. Two individuals were convicted under this statute, saying that the possession of a certain amount of marijuana constituted a felony. And they were sentenced, respectively, to 1 to 3 and 1 to 4 years in a state penitentiary. This case is known as Commonwealth versus Sutley.
Okay.
Shortly after the court imposed this felony sentence, the General Assembly amended the statute, to which the defendants pled guilty. And they declared that the possession of the same amount of marijuana that these two felons possessed.
So what is this guy doing? What is Timothy R. Bonner doing? I think he's kind of stalling. They got a 173-page bill, this bill on Sunday is my understanding. It's now Wednesday. Democrats control the House. This is going to pass. And so Timmy Bonner's up here just making a stink about it in any way possible. I'm sure there's some sorts of rules of decorum and filibustering, I guess. This dude knows he's going to lose. He's fucking pissed off. Right now he's talking about the criminal pardoning issue that's involved. Yeah, water picker, you're kind of on the right idea. It's the Pennsylvania is probably going to be Democrat controlled, or corrupt person controlled anyway for the foreseeable future. So another way of looking at this is that Democrats will own the entire marijuana industry. It's sponsored by two representatives, one out of Philly, one out of Allegheny. That means Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania is Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and then everybody else is conservative. So this is a power move by the city people to give the marijuana industry to their friends. Just one tiny problem with all of it. Honestly, my views on easy access to marijuana have changed quite a lot in the past 10 years. Yes, on that BS, the bill itself sucks. Typical Dems to sneak a bunch of bullshit into it. Exactly. A lot of people have said growing it yourself. I mean, that and any other plant, maybe. Call me a libertarian if you want, but Williams Channel, member for 14 months, William Maines, what's going on? Pennsylvania sounds a lot like California. The cesspit of Harrisburg, that's true, where these guys are right now.
There are 3 branches of government.
So, yes, he's saying words. Yes, those words have meaning, and some of that meaning is kind of corny, if not outright wrong. It's not about him and what he's saying. He's just up here stalling. Stalling. Most of these other bills that went down today, let me think I can pull that up here real quick.
The Supreme Court said
Still over there. Here we go.
That the General Assembly cannot direct it to revisit and reopen a
These guys, the ones with the little star, have already been voted on, and they just slammed through all of them, and now they're on HB 1200, and now this is happening. So, yeah, this is the one that's got them all pissed off, and I don't blame the Republicans. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
That the General Assembly had no authority to alter judgments.
But I am very much interested in your thoughts, chat, so please keep them coming. I'll try to keep an eye on it and respond to it, especially as this guy's just kind of making noise. Reminder that up to 5 emojis, maybe it's 10, will fly across the screen if you use them. And any super chats or member chats should be automatically highlighted below in yellow. So I'll keep an eye on those and try to read them all out as I have been doing. But again, this is Pennsylvania happening live right now. House Bill 1200, ostensibly about legalizing recreational marijuana. Like all other things, it's not about that at all. It kind of is.
Or to expunge any conviction. That power was reserved either to the courts or to
Stacking coins with a good question. When neither of the two-party system works for us, who do we vote for?
There are many mandates in House Bill 1200 invading the powers of the court and the governor regarding commutation of sentences and remittance of fines. But I want to focus particularly on Section 305, which directs the courts to expunge or eliminate any marijuana convictions and sentences imposed before the date of the adoption of House Bill 1200. This is in direct violation of the Supreme Court decision in 1977. It also says in Section 305 that the courts are to eliminate any fines which they have imposed on any individuals and redirect them to other criminal charges. Again, a significant invasion by the General Assembly into the power and authority of our judicial system. This is prohibited by the separation of powers of our 3 branches of government. Section 305 then directs the court to vacate, to expunge, and to destroy convictions and sentence records entered into prior to the adoption of House Bill 1200, and to release anyone from prison or parole serving a current sentence for a lawful conviction. The General Assembly has no power.
That's actually kind of an interesting point. This is sort of a way that the legislative branch is getting around the judicial branch.
To expunge past convictions.
John Liller has a good point. This is just a formality. I can literally walk down the street to a store and buy all the pot I want. Again, emphasizing the point that this bill is not about making it available. It already is. It's about giving control of the sales pipeline to your buddies.
Anytime they exercise legislative powers. And I can tell you that the courts will be highly critical of House Bill 1200.
The sponsor of the bill is a Democrat, I think from Philly, named Krajewski, yes.
It was introduced
What's going on, Bane Bear?
And we had an opportunity.
What's going on, Serb? I didn't realize that was Serb with the blue one-year badge. What's going on?
Monday, and
William Downs, it makes people with ADHD feel normal.
This was a rush to judgment.
There he goes. Rush to judgment.
This bill should be further reviewed. It should be further vetted. And to ignore the Constitution is to ignore the oath that each and every one of us took as we were sworn into office. We need then to heed our own criticism of the courts.
Good point,
and not to
Mockler.
invade the domain of the courts in cases in which they have ruled in the past and which are in accord with the law which was in existence at the time they entered their order. Today, then, we will test our commitment to the rule of law. I sense that a majority of the legislators in this House support this legislation. But we are also obligated to support the Constitution ahead of our personal legislative agenda. This legislation can be properly vetted and passed in accord with law. But today, if your vote is in favor of House Bill 1800, you will have violated your oath that you took when you were sworn in. I am confident that the constitutional argument.
Another thing he actually said pretty well there is that recreational marijuana can happen in a way that is in accordance with existing Pennsylvania law. And if it's about making it available and it has benefits, I think he's implying there's nothing wrong with that. What he's having a problem with is the other shit they've slid in here.
Of your oath. I look forward, if there is any counter-argument to my argument that you are
Newspeak says, let's not forget that in California they put a 50% tax on it, so now most people still buy it illegally because it's cheaper still.
If there are such
It's definitely true of the medical here. The medical here is as expensive, if not more expensive, than street weed used to be.
Right by the Constitution, by our oath of office, and by our rule of law.
William Downs is talking about tourist money. I really don't know how much of that there's going to be. It's already recreationally legal in New Jersey, maybe New York even. Again, two things going on here. I don't think anybody in the chat that watches my channel anyway has a problem with using a plant that you can grow yourself. But you'd like to be allowed to grow it yourself and then use it, would you not? Not have to buy it from the state of Pennsylvania? You think they're going to keep being fair when they're the only vendor in town?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, today, for the first time in our Commonwealth, we are considering passing legislation to legalize and regulate adult use cannabis. Yeah, let's clap up.
Rick Krajewski.
6 health committee hearings.
Holy cow.
Meeting with stakeholders from industry, labor, social equity, criminal justice reform, and more. I am proud and honored
He looks like Key and Peele had a gay baby.
That I believe creates a balanced, responsible, and robust framework. Right now, Pennsylvanians who use cannabis are either crossing state lines to purchase from other legal markets or buying from the illicit market. This fiscal year, the 5 states neighboring Pennsylvania that have legalized adult use cannabis, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Ohio, project to pull in a combined total revenue of over $500 million.
And what costs are associated?
We are losing public dollars and ruining lives with outdated laws that prolong.
If it's about money, it's a net negative. If Colorado's to be believed.
The reality is, criminalization.
And I know the government
is
great at getting involved in things and making money.
It does not deter usage. It does not promote safety, and it is not in the best interest of our Commonwealth. With legalization, we have the opportunity to rein in a market that is completely deregulated in terms of potency, content, labeling, or advertising. We can promote public health while also bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars that can be directed to communities hit the hardest by past criminalization. While our state is late to the game in terms of legalizing cannabis, this timing allows us to learn from the mistake of other frameworks. Massive multi-state cannabis companies have leveraged their existing medical and recreational footprints to control entire swaths of newly emerging recreational markets. Where states have tried to level the playing field with social equity guidelines, those states have been terrorized with industry lawsuits.
What's going on, Joshua Culley?
This naked greed has led to near impossible conditions for small entrepreneurs to successfully
talk about that in a
compete
minute. It's a good question. Let's let Krajewski finish up.
Many of whom are formerly incarcerated due to cannabis-related offenses, were sold a fake gold rush dream by predatory investors.
Mockler, it's crazy to me that in the year of our Lord 2025, marijuana is still such a legal issue.
Due to the volatility of a new market.
Yeah, this guy's feeding everybody a line of bullshit, though. It's
private equity was ready.
It's a decided issue, and it's going to be legal recreationally. The battle being fought is who gets to own the stores that sell it.
Out-of-state corporations with a combined valuation of over $6 billion control more than 70% of our current medical dispensaries. Their CEOs receive millions in compensation every year. Without proper controls in place, we risk turning Pennsylvania into the new playground for corporate cannabis. Instead of cycling through the same failed policies, our bill takes a bold new approach in proposing a hybrid system of publicly owned, publicly accountable retail stores while maintaining social equity and small business advantage license programs in small-scale retail in the entire supply chain. This model allows us to marry the stability of our current
It's got a whole model of who gets to own them
with
all.
tightly regulated business opportunities in the cannabis industry. We will prioritize disadvantaged and minority businesses in shelving products at our retail stores. We will create new business opportunities in the form of consumption lounges and create local ownership and commerce. We will provide micro-licensing opportunities that will prevent monopolistic practices and give small businesses in Pennsylvania a fair shot. We will create tens of thousands of union jobs and empower workers with cooperative licensing opportunities.
I see.
And
voters,
because we will have oversight over the retail market, we can keep prices low for consumers while reaping the proceeds from sales and tax revenue, generating over $500 million in annual revenue for our Commonwealth. We can create real Pennsylvanian-owned cannabis businesses by preventing another corporate takeover. But it will require the courage to call out the state of the industry and the willingness to say another way is possible. With our model,
orgasmic
we
potato,
provide
you
one
get it.
Centralized authority
Can't have monopolies,
to
so the
regulate
state will
the
own it all.
health and safety of recreational cannabis usage. Throughout our state,
Yes, this is live. This
consumers
is happening
can
now.
trust that when they go into a store to purchase cannabis, there is a uniform standard for labeling and potency. Residents can rest assured that products will not be marketed to exploit underage usage, and that there is a publicly accountable process in placement of retail stores. Lastly, by legalizing adult use cannabis, we can provide fair and reasonable workplace guidelines for companies and employees alike. Given that alcohol has consistently proven to be exponentially more dangerous than cannabis, it is deeply hypocritical to penalize
Who owns all those
employees
stores?
for recreational
Fucking
use
idiot.
on their personal time. Our bill provides protections against workplace and courtroom discrimination while still allowing disciplinary action for active impairment on the job. This would create standards that are on par to that of alcohol intoxication. I will admit that crafting this legislation has been a long and arduous process. Pennsylvania's strength is in its diversity, and there are a multitude of perspectives on how we regulate recreational cannabis. I can say with full confidence that our bill prioritizes economic justice, entrepreneurship, public health, workplace safety, community restoration, and more. So a vote on HB 1200 is a vote to move us one step closer to modernization.
Fine wine and good spirits and green grass.
Chair thanks the maker of the bill. On that question, Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Armstrong, Representative Major.
Of course, we have a morbidly obese African-Irish leprechaun.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I stand before you in opposition of House Bill 1200, a proposal that seeks to transition Pennsylvania to a state-run adult-use cannabis model. Besides the fact that this would require state employees and the state itself to violate federal law,
a little asbestos in your weed is a treat,
and state bank accounts and the state's access to federal funding. This bill is a costly and inefficient approach for the Commonwealth, posing significant risks to our economy, our medical program, social equity, and public health and safety. Let me explain why House Bill 1200 is a deeply flawed bill. First, let's be clear. Establishing state-run cannabis system from scratch will cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more.
What a great point.
The proposal itself calls for substantial borrowing to build new stores, hire and train staff, and create an entirely new bureaucracy. It costs anywhere from $1 to $3 million to build out a legal dispensary, and construction takes 12 to 24 months. For cultivation and processing facilities, it costs between $10 and $200 million and takes 2 to 3 years to complete. The fiscal note on this bill projects over $270 million in upfront costs. These costs will be borne by taxpayers before a single dollar of revenue is ever generated. Even under optimistic projections, it will take at least 2 to 3 years before a single gram of cannabis is legally sold in Pennsylvania. That delay means lost revenue on top of the initial hole that we will be putting ourselves in. Revenue that instead flows to the illicit market and neighboring states, which are already reaping the benefits of regulated sales. Rather than leveraging the infrastructure we've already built in the medical market, nearly 30,000 jobs, over 450,000 active patients, and nearly $2 billion in annual sales, we're choosing to start from scratch, to erase the progress of the past 8 years, to say, sorry, we've been arresting and prosecuting you for 100 years for selling cannabis, but that's okay, we'll take it from here.
There you go.
The delay in launching the state-run model will have serious revenue consequences. While we wait for the bureaucracy to take shape, neighboring states and the illicit market will continue to thrive. Just look at New York. It took years to get their program off the ground, creating a vacuum filled by thousands of illicit drug dealers selling unsafe, unregulated products. Why? Because they didn't leverage their existing medical infrastructure and lacked the capital to launch effectively. Is that our model? Are we really using the most criticized program in the country as our blueprint? This bill completely misses the mark when it comes to revenue that could be used today for communities, infrastructure, public safety, and essential services. If we're serious about generating revenue, a smooth transition to a regulated private adult use market is the only path forward. It delivers benefits now, not years from now. More critically, House Bill 1200 puts patients
Doesn't
and providers
let you get
at
to
risk.
choose who owns
It
everything,
prohibits
though. That's
medical
the main
operators
problem.
from participating in the adult use market, putting them out of business. Our existing medical program supports nearly 30,000 jobs and serves 500,000 patients. If medical providers shut down because they can't compete with state-run stores, patients will suffer. We know that 70 to 80% of consumers shift from medical to adult use markets after legalization. Add to that House Bill 1200 restrictions on THC limits and product potency, and you're cutting off access to the products that patients need. And what happens? People turn again to the illicit market for cheaper, more potent, but unregulated and unsafe products. House Bill 1200 mandates that adult use sales can begin only after 2 dispensaries are established in each of the 5 regions across the state. That's just 10 dispensaries statewide at launch. Do we really think that Pennsylvanians will drive hours across the state or across state lines to access legal cannabis, or worse, turn to a street dealer or even opioids? This bill is a slap in the face to small businesses and minority entrepreneurs who have long waited for a fair shot in the cannabis industry. First, House Bill 1200 provides no opportunity for Black and brown entrepreneurs to open their own dispensaries. The only chance for minority-owned grow and processing businesses is to sell to the state if the regulator selects them. And if you're not selected, then what? Pay real estate and workforce costs while hoping the state sends you an email ready saying we're ready for you? And here's the kicker, there's no upfront capital for social equity applicants. They'll need to wait 2 to 3 years before a single dollar in grants or loans is available. That's not equity, that's a barrier. Just look at New York again. No upfront support for equity applicants, and most never even opened. Those who did folded within months. And the fees, House Bill 1200 levies some of the highest in the country, thousands just to apply, tens of thousands for a license. It charges $20 million for a grower-processor license with no guarantee of even being able to sell it to the state store unless under emergency circumstances. Is this even a serious proposal? In New York, when they tried to charge $20 million, no one paid it. Operators sued instead, and most still haven't paid. If anyone's telling you this will be an immediate revenue source, I invite you to look to New York. The evidence says otherwise. This delay in creating a legal market means one thing: the illicit market will grow. Without access to legal products, consumers turn to the underground market, where products are untested, unregulated, and often unsafe with no proper labeling, no dosage information, no safety standards, and worst of all, no age restrictions, meaning more risk for minors. House Bill 1200 fails to address this. In fact, it worsens it by delaying legal access and pushing consumers into dangerous territory. In conclusion, House Bill 1200 is a deeply flawed proposal that drains our resources and weakens our financial footing long before we would ever see a return. It's expensive, it's inefficient, it delays revenue, it excludes those most impacted by prohibition, and it jeopardizes the health and well-being of patients and consumers. We must reject House Bill 1200.
So she said some key things there that I think, again, highlight the issue here, that we have this existing medical marijuana infrastructure. Rather than transforming that into a recreational marijuana infrastructure, this bill is designed so that the government gets to choose an entire new supply chain from the supplier all the way down to the distributor. That's what this is about. I don't think any of these people, Republican or Democrat, give a flying fuck. This is about power and control. I think in a perfect world, the Democrats want the power and the control, and the Pennsylvania Republicans, like Charity Grim-Krupa, are trying to give that power and control to the people, if possible, which I would be on board with. See what she has to say.
Patients in excruciating pain, veterans with PTSD who have found peace, and Alzheimer's patients who finally regained an appetite. I affirm the importance of compassionate care and the responsible use of medical cannabis for those in need, but this is not what this bill is about. This bill is not about carefully controlled medical use. This bill is not about decriminalization of low-level possession, issues that I can support. This bill is about legalizing an industry whose highly potent product is known to impair judgment, reduce productivity, increase addictions, especially for youth, and put public safety at risk. We are being told that this is a harmless substance, that it's no worse than alcohol, that it will boost revenue and help our budget. But none of these arguments live up to the facts. The mounting evidence from other states have already gone down this road. They're now paying the price. Let's address the first fallacy, that marijuana is no worse than alcohol. That's simply untrue, and the science is clear. Alcohol, while dangerous in its own right, does not cause the same long-term damage to adolescent brain development that marijuana does.
Again, I question how serious some of the things like she is about some of what she's saying, but assuming that she is, I feel like a lot of the chat is disagreeing about the dangers and problems of using marijuana. I'm curious if that's the case. Do you see it as something that should be consumed daily? More than once a day, things like that? Would you say that it's on par with something like alcohol, where, as something of a libertarian or adult American anyway, you would give the choice to the adult if they want to use it or not? I tend to be in that camp. She led this all off by saying there was a lot of arguments that she agreed with, but I interpret this as sort of preaching to her voter base, which is an older, conservative, Christian, Republican group that just thinks weed is Satan. And again, all these Republicans know at the end of all these speeches they're going to lose this vote by one. So this is performative.
Including psychosis, anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. We cannot pretend that this is a harmless substance. These are powerful, psychoactive substances, and they are already wreaking havoc in states that rushed into legalization. We've been told that marijuana isn't addictive, but the science says otherwise. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, about 3 in 10 marijuana users develop a disorder. And among those who begin in adolescence, 1 in 6 becomes addicted. The National Institute on Drug Abuse has confirmed that legalization increases the frequency and intensity in use, particularly among young people. We know from other states that legalization fuels addiction. It's no coincidence that states with legal markets report spikes in youth usage and drug-related incidents in schools. We've seen this in Michigan, where student drug violations exploded after legalization. When marijuana becomes widely available, usage becomes normalized, and our young people pay the price.
Good
In
question from
Colorado,
Chat Litter.
For every dollar that's spent, for every dollar that's generated in revenue, taxpayers incur $4.50 in costs tied to drug treatment, increased emergency visits.
That part is true.
Traffic
That's the
crashes,
number I
and
saw.
criminal justice burdens. The idea that this legislation is going to boost our budget is fantasy economics. To play devil's advocate, even if the tax targets are hit, they'll be paid by a small segment of daily users who will bear the health consequences for life. That's not good policy, that's exploitation. Let's talk about public safety. Traffic fatalities,
Good point from
including
Robbie C.
marijuana-positive drivers, more than doubled in Colorado after legalization. In Washington, they rose by 122%. Research published by BMJ Open and supported
It's actually a great comment, Robbie C. The younger generation, the kids that come into Studio Center and all that, they almost don't hardly drink. It's interesting.
rise in fatal crashes. Unlike alcohol, there's no
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I want these Republicans to win. Now, again, they know they're going to lose, and they're just talking to make noise. But I think this is maybe the wrong angle to come from. I think they should be coming from an angle of small government.
In every state that tracked it. In Colorado, 1 in 3 DUIs now involves marijuana. Legislation makes it harder to identify impairment, and it's easier for intoxicated drivers to get behind the wheel. What about our children and our mental health consequences that are going to be suffered? This bill is undoubtedly going to harm our youth and put our young
Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about on your screen right there, House Bill 1200. This is happening live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's the Pennsylvania House. They were handed a 173-page bill on Sunday and told to vote on it today. The Democrats control the House. This will pass. It's sponsored by Rep. Krajewski out of Philadelphia. This is a coordinated Philadelphia and Pittsburgh sort of thing that tends to happen in Pennsylvania politics a lot. But the issue I am taking with it, and a lot of us here in the chat, I think, is not so much should marijuana be legal recreationally to use, grow even, by an adult American citizen. I think we'd all say yes. But what this bill has buried in it is, number one, forgiveness for all previous marijuana-related crimes. And then it allows the state to get a monopoly on the sale of marijuana in Pennsylvania, and they get to select everyone involved in the supply chain from the growers to the distributors. So take a wild guess whether or not all those people are going to be Democrats if this goes through.
In treatment centers across Pennsylvania, counselors are reporting a dramatic increase in marijuana-induced psychosis, particularly among teens and adults. I'm not making this up. This is what the experts are reporting. People who were never predisposed to mental illness are now suffering.
All right, she's going to rage for a while, I'm assuming, and I got someone that walked in here, so let me turn her back up. I will be right back.
It's not speculation. It's happening right now, and this legislation is only going to make it worse. In Detroit public schools, drug-related incidents jumped from 289 in 2021 to over 1,700 in 2023 after Michigan legalized recreational use. ER visits for marijuana-related psychosis has exploded in Colorado. And in every state that has legalized it, the share of high school students using marijuana regularly has gone up, despite all the so-called safeguards. Meanwhile, emergency rooms are reporting surges in THC poisoning among young children. In fact, the number of marijuana-related ER visits for children under 10 have tripled in the last 5 years. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that pediatric ER visits among marijuana tripled between 2019 and 2012. Doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia say they're now receiving daily calls about children under 6 exposed to THC products. High-potency gummies and candies, they're attractive to kids. That's not fear-mongering. It's happening, and this bill will only make it worse. Let's talk about what this bill does to the Pennsylvania workforce, which is already under extreme stress. From the manager at Dollar General to the head of a manufacturing facility, I've heard it over and over and over again. Employers cannot find workers. And they certainly can't find workers who can pass a drug test. We've all heard it. This bill makes it worse. It forbids employers from considering marijuana use in hiring and firing decisions unless somebody is visibly high and visibly intoxicated. What about the risks that aren't immediately visible? What about the forklift operator who develops a habit of smoking?
All right, we got our
every
buddy
night and shows
Jack
up to work
Kentner in here.
tired, foggy,
Let me
and
turn this
distracted?
broad down a little
What
bit
about
here.
the manufacturing line tech whose job requires
right,
attention to
slow
detail
enough.
and sober judgment?
Oh, I think I
every
can get
single
you on
day?
this camera. Hang
What
on.
about the delivery driver who may not be visibly impaired, but he
What's
has
up, buddy?
enough marijuana in his system
Oh.
when he makes that
Try
one
again,
critical
sorry.
critical
What is
mistake
up,
to boost
everybody?
There he is.
Quest
I just thought I'd drop by.
Diagnostics report that marijuana positivity in the workplace has reached an all-time
All right, so let's
high.
get her back
And
up
in
there.
states where marijuana
Nice.
has been legalized, it has doubled. Employers are rightfully worried about liability, insurance costs, and morale. The Pennsylvania Manufacturing Association has warned that this bill will undermine workforce development and threaten workplace safety. Shouldn't a private employer have the freedom to build a team
What's
that
up, Robbie
reflects their
C?
values,
Nice.
their mission, and their workplace safety standards? This bill says no. It effectively treats marijuana as a protected status, turning drug use.
How you feel about the, do you know anything about this?
Not really. I just kind of found out about it today, just hearing the
Yeah,
arguments for it.
same. I got the notice as
We
well.
have to ask ourselves,
Basically, this bill is ostensibly on the surface. It's about the legalization of recreational marijuana. Holy hell,
you
she's
don't
talking
help
in a very
families
hard bit.
shattered by addiction by legalizing and commercializing.
There we go. What it's really doing is this is Josh Shapiro handing the entire marijuana industry over to all of his buddies. And so that's where I take issue with it, is that
From Mercer County, this bill
it's a Democrat power play. But we have right now these Republicans coming up and mostly talking about the health and safety issues rather than the big and small government issues, which the chat is annoyed by. Oh, they say, "What's up, Jack?"
Okay.
I feel bad for her husband. She's in there fighting. Maybe the way she's fighting is kind of wild, but she's trying. And so anyway, Jack, the PA House, if you didn't know, is controlled by Democrats. This is going to pass the House. It's probably going to fail the Senate, I believe. But yeah, it's just a giant shit show, fucking power play, power struggle, same old Pennsylvania political games. They got this bill on Sunday, and they're supposed to vote on it Wednesday. It was like almost 200 pages, so...
Yeah. So in summary, it's they're moving beyond decriminalizing it and just regulating it up the ass, so it's harder to so it's more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, it's more like so they can hand who gets to grow it and sell it and all of that. They can legally rubber stamp all their friends, and then if someone like you or I were like, hey, we want to grow it and sell it and make a bunch of money, they'd be like, sorry. Tough shit.
Yeah. It just sounds like the typical like bureaucratic nonsense.
Yeah, it's like the old question of when has the government ever got involved in anything and made it better?
Just a ton of unnecessary licenses and classes that you can just that experience pays for itself.
Even beyond that is these everything will be so confusing and weird, and you'll have to be like a black lesbian midget with 7 arms in order to get a license, but like it'll be very ambiguously worded whether or not you fall into that category. So then if they do want you, they say yes, and if they don't, they just like, oh no, sorry, you need another arm.
Yeah.
You need an arm growing out of your ass if you want to grow this plant. But Robbie C., I just don't understand why Republicans play this moral game when they could easily argue on the merits of the bill. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. That's kind of what we're saying. I think the chat agrees.
Yeah, I would imagine even libertarians would have issues with this bill based on what you described, John.
Well, some people are just like, hooray, weed. And it's like
Safety budget in
missing
Pennsylvania.
the point.
Let me be clear, this is not a partisan issue, it's a human one. And I pray, in Jesus' name I pray, that together we can rise above partisanship, we can open our eyes to the data, our ears to the voices of parents and employers, and our hearts to the generations who will bear the consequences. Let's choose wisdom over impulse. Vote no on House Bill 1200.
I agree,
Chair
Williams
thanks the
Channel.
gentlelady on that question. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Allegheny, Representative Venkit.
So this is the other Democrat, I believe. Allegheny meaning
So I want to
Pittsburgh.
thank the gentlelady from Fayette County because we too infrequently cite the medical literature up here in the State House. And as the only physician here, I always appreciate the literature review that we should have when discussing legislation related to public health. But one of the fallacies that exists when we're citing medical statistics is the failure to contextualize it in the context of patients and the communities that we serve. And I stand
Good
here
old
as the
Arvind
first
Venkat,
physician
the
since
Pennsylvanian.
1960s to serve in our
He
General
represents
Assembly,
my county.
He
who
represents
continues
me.
to care for patients. And I think it's important to set the record straight
Arvind.
as to what are the individual health effects related to marijuana and why this legislation addresses the public health concerns that have been legitimate.
There you go, William Maines,
to
exactly.
The legalization of marijuana. The first is that it is extraordinarily clear and well established in the medical literature that marijuana is less dangerous than tobacco or alcohol to individual health. That has not been something that is questioned. And I appreciate those who take a view that we should have a prohibitionist approach to any substance that can cause harms to humans. Certainly, I've taken an oath to do no harm. But as a practical public health matter, prohibition does not work. And we saw that historically in the United States with alcohol prohibition. And frankly, we've seen it by those, including those with whom I have sympathy, who said we should prohibit tobacco given the harm that is clearly caused by that. That has not worked. And we also cannot ignore the real individual and community health consequences to the criminalization of marijuana. That is also established.
So he's doing a good job of obfuscating again what this argument is about, and the Republicans are honestly helping him. It's nobody wants prohibition. Is it getting opened up to everybody to do business in, or just you guys that run the state? That's the issue. But they're just very cleverly rambling about anything but the actual problem with any of this.
The first is there is no evidence that underage individuals are purposefully taking up marijuana in states that have legalized marijuana for adult use. It is a fallacy that has been disabused in the medical literature over and over and over again. What is clear is that individuals at the lower end of the legal age may be more likely to take up marijuana. So in this case, in our bill, it is age 21 and above. And the concerns about the adolescent brain are valid, but we are talking about a legalization that is occurring towards the tail end of neurological development. And we need to acknowledge that in the public health context, again, that prohibition has not worked. And with substances that are more harmful than marijuana, alcohol, we have deemed that it should be legal at the age of 21. The second point is that the statistics about emergency department use are correct, but again, not contextualized. And as an emergency physician, I feel very comfortable saying this relative to speaking to my colleagues across the country where marijuana has been legalized. The emergency department presentations have come about from two very important reasons. One is accidental exposure among underage individuals because of products that have been created that are appealing to children. If you have a gummy which is then picked up and taken by a child, that is going to cause problems. Similarly, high-potency THC products.
Dr. Tetanus,
which
well,
are
good on her for invoking
unregulated,
Christ's
are
name in a
getting
house of Moloch
into
worshippers.
the
Now let's hear
marketed
from the very
products, and
American
as a
Shiva
result,
enjoyer on medicine.
Those individuals are presenting to the emergency department, whether in terms of impairment,
It's got
or
that
whether
parted
in
hair and
terms
everything.
of other toxicities from
Thank
THC
you, Dr. Tetanus.
at very high levels. That is also true for the data that has been cited related to presentations for psychosis or other medical conditions. It is directly correlated to the high potency products that are being marketed in differently regulated.
What do you think that girl in the
markets
background
across
is
the country.
texting about? She's biting her lip.
I want to
She on
commend
Tinder?
the sponsors of the bill, the gentleman from Allegheny County and the gentleman from Philadelphia County, because from having sat in the health committee and seen the public health experts that have come forward and related that to both the clinical experience I have, as well as to the clinical experience of colleagues across the country, and related to efforts to manage the consequences of legal products such as tobacco and alcohol, it is critically important and is present in this legislation that there is rigorous regulation of potency, packaging, and marketing. All of those efforts go directly.
We need lots of regulators.
to how
We need more
mitigate
employees.
the
We
harm
need
that
bureaucrats.
could come about from legalization of marijuana, and to take the lessons of how we stop some of those consequences that have occurred in other states. I feel very comfortable as a medical professional saying that the approach that is taken in this legislation is rigorous, supports the public health, and recognizes the very real consequences of prohibition. It goes directly to a public health precept of harm reduction and
not
making
about
sure
prohibition.
that we regulate this product in a
Regulate.
manner that it is directed towards those who it is meant
Jack,
to be
are you
available
texting that
to
girl?
adults,
Is it you two that
and
are
to
talking?
mitigate the consequences from high THC
What
content
lines are you
products,
dropping on her?
as well as from accidental exposure.
What's your favorite Tinder pickup
I
line?
don't think that this
Usually
is the
I ask
end of
them
the
to
debate.
say something out of
Clearly,
pocket
if
for
we
me, and that
pass
sets the
this
stage.
legislation, it is going to go to the
To
Senate.
say what?
Say something out of pocket, like completely random
Ah.
on their mind.
Colleagues here who are
Do they?
fellow medical professionals
Sometimes
who
they
I
do.
know
Sometimes they're
will
like,
concur.
no, you
We
first.
need to
What do you
understand
say?
that these provisions that are in House
Here's
Bill
something out of
1200
pocket. I respect you, lady.
unique and well-suited
I don't know.
to
Just
our
it just
public
sort of
health
comes to
environment
me.
here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's for
Fair
that
enough.
It's
reason
improv.
that I urge
Fair
a
enough.
yes
Well,
vote on House
if it
Bill
works out
1200.
between you and that girl on screen, let me know. Oh,
Okay.
She just dropped her phone to clap.
Gentlemen, on that question, Chair recognizes the gentlelady from
Chair asked the gentlelady from Missouri.
Yeah, I'll be sure to call her up and bring her some weed down here.
Yeah, bring us some weed. Have a little puffski with her. All right, are we voting yet or what?
Madam Speaker, the contents of this bill
Nope.
are largely influenced by
Ah!
testimony that was received during
What is
several
that?
House Health Committee hearings conducted last
She
session.
needs a bigger
which I
medical pen.
attended
That's
on the
not
Health
big enough.
Committee. While I
What would you
appreciate
call
the
this
time
haircut?
that
It's
was
not exactly a
dedicated to
pixie
learning about
cut.
this
Call it the
issue, I'm
dyke.
concerned that
The dyke cut?
crucial groups were not consulted in the development of this legislation.
I'd call it the.
As a member of the House Appropriations Committee,
I don't know.
had the opportunity to question
Wine
the
mom?
state police during
She looks
budget
like her
hearings
lesbian
about the
partner
input
shaved her head in a rage when
they've
she was
had
sleeping.
in marijuana legalization.
When she passed out from
As you
smoking
may
all that
recall,
weed.
the state police admitted
And then her
to not
partner
being
partner
included in the
Gertrude.
legalization
It's like this
conversation,
fucking bitch and her
but
stupid
indicated
pin.
that they would hope to
shaving her
be
head.
given a seat at the table.
Marla.
It was
If I had a
emphasized
tumor,
that
I'd
the
name it Marla.
implications of such a proposal would be dependent
Fight Club
on
joke.
how the legislation
Kind of is like,
structured.
oh my God.
Keep in mind,
It's
this
her.
was
That's the Fight Club
response
lady.
Provided only a few short months ago.
Hold on.
Yet, we now have House Bill 1200, which was in the works long before that. Clearly, our state police, who are mentioned 25 times throughout this bill, I might add, were left out of the conversation. How do you not consult with law enforcement
the same person.
on a proposal like this?
That's Helena Bonham Carter.
We saw how this played out with the legalization of medical marijuana nearly 10 years ago, creating confusion.
She found out she was a lesbian after her last boyfriend blew up a bunch of credit card buildings.
House Bill 1200 only stretches
The Kramer.
powers
She does
of
look
the
kind of like
Act
Kramer. That's not
In
bad.
fact,
Yeah.
our own Attorney General does not support this bill. What about the Department of Agriculture, Health, Revenue, Drug and Alcohol Programs, and other impacted Commonwealth agencies? What about the State Treasurer and the Auditor General? Have they been given the opportunity to contribute to this legislation? As legislators, we get to
Feel
have
bad now. I'm
input
just realizing
today,
she's a Republican.
and I will be opposed.
Marla.
I see this as one of the most important votes that I will make in my career here. I want to be sure that future generations know I intended to protect them with my vote today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentlelady on that question. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Luzerne, Representative Pugh.
Gentlelady from Luzerne, Representative Pugh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in opposition to House Bill 1200. I never thought this would be my first time speaking on the floor in front of all of you.
First time.
Those who know me, and many
Should
of
get her
you
a James Franco up there.
over the years, know that my focus has always been our children, their safety, and what it takes to protect them and all the boards that I have sat on. I fear that this bill hasn't taken into our children into concern. Sure, we're stopping where they can smoke it and what they can do, but they can still do it at home. We all know that secondhand smoke is dangerous and causes cancer.
No,
THC
wrong argument.
can be transferred in secondhand smoke into our infants, toddlers, and adolescents. I don't think that's what we want. I don't think that's what this bill was made for. And I really don't think $1 is worth a child's life or a child's health. I implore you to really think about this when you're casting that vote.
I don't know, Jack. Does the appeal to emotion and health and morality working? Is it working on you?
Not really. To me, it just sounds like the typical, like, boomer fear mongering.
Yeah,
that we've seen. For
I
years.
think that's the reaction of the entire chat. It's kind of there could have been a more coordinated front put up here, and I'm in agreement with you and the chat.
Yeah, but I guess the timing of this, even if the bill passes, is that's really bad timing since things like Doge exists. So it's gonna. So I imagine they're not going to allow for any useless bureaucratic meddling.
Yeah, I mean this won't get through the Senate, is my understanding, but.
The cities right now don't have that choice to
I think what's frustrating for me is the lack of understanding from the general Pennsylvania population of what this is about. You have right-wing people saying, yeah, that'd be great. Marijuana would be legal. I'm for it. Small government control. Let everybody have access. But whoops. That's not what's happening. It's literally making the government bigger and more powerful. It's handing them yet another monopoly. They already have alcohol. They have the lottery. Why can't I run a lottery, Jack? I just want to run lotteries.
Because children might somehow get a hold of their
Because
parents'
those
credit card.
tickets, that secondhand lottery would get into those babies. It's a weird argument, isn't it? I don't understand this.
Yeah, they use the same arguments on Kick and other streaming platforms. I'm just like, I don't really see how that's really an issue. It's just it's just going to happen. I don't really think it's that big of a problem between, like, for kids anyway.
I mean, I am learning. I mean, maybe the whole moral and health issue is really important to older people in Pennsylvania. I mean,
consider them before we make a decision. I want to thank you for the time.
I don't know.
I mean, I would care more about like other chemicals or just like lead paint that lowers IQs more than I would worry about weed.
Yeah, but I mean, if you would legalize it, but you would allow any entrepreneur, Pennsylvania resident type person to like try to make a business out of that, right?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to go grow weed or to open a store, I'd be allowed to, right?
Yeah, that's a free market.
Yeah, that's not what this bill is.
No, it isn't. It isn't at all.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right, are we voting now?
Folks, if you vote against this bill, the reality is you're voting against billions of dollars for public safety. I've been hearing often from the other side a good question about why we can't do things.
There's a Democrat.
The question is money. Where are you going to get the money? And I believe and agree soon the taxpayers, the good taxpayers of Pennsylvania, are going to ask us, what's in your wallet? Today we have something to put in our wallet and for the overall benefit of every Pennsylvanian. When you vote against this bill, you're voting against more state troopers out there to protect people. You're voting for vape shops selling whatever they want to whoever they want.
Not really.
You're voting for Pennsylvania
pass a
money
bill on
going
that
to
if you
other
wanted to.
states. I've heard people talk about Colorado and New Jersey, New York. We're not Colorado. We're not New Jersey. We're not New York. We're here in Pennsylvania. This is the unique bill
also,
that has come out.
All
because
those
we've
results
learned
don't mean
lessons
anything because this
from
is
those other
Pennsylvania.
states. The reality is people in Pennsylvania are smoking cannabis. That's happening.
True.
That's the reality.
All right. True statement.
The problem is we're letting it happen in the worst way. And the status quo is not working. Much of what I've heard here today, legitimate concerns. It's happening while cannabis is illegal. Just like alcohol prohibition didn't stop drinking but made criminals rich. Just like how banning gaming didn't stop illegal gambling, but took Pennsylvania dollars out of the state or to illegal bookies. Our archaic cannabis laws need to be brought into 2025 so we can protect the people who use and the people who don't use. The Cannabis Health and Safety Act fixes these problems and treats adults like adults and kids like kids.
No, it doesn't.
And it's not targeting enforcement. It's targeting enforcement where it belongs. As a past correctional officer, I've seen the pain and suffering of people.
Oh, he took his glasses off.
On marijuana
serious.
charges. Then I became
This
a public
is
defender, an
his
attorney.
big movie moment.
And some of those people that I locked up, I actually defended later on. And I see the road that they went down to. This has to stop.
You put
And
him
this
in
bill
jail.
will help stop that.
I locked him up, and damn it, it was horrible.
I've heard today.
Following the footsteps
and
of
I've
Kamala
seen
Harris.
Myself, marijuana has done some tragic things to our children. But again, that damage has been done with unregulated marijuana. We do not know what.
If only it
is
was
in the
regulated. If
marijuana
only
our
Chicago
children are
had
smoking.
gun
And
laws,
with
there'd be
this
no more
bill,
shootings
we
there.
will, at the very least. When I took this job, and I ask myself this every day, how is it that I was fortunate enough to be here? This is an awesome responsibility, and I pledged to try to do as much good as I could for the people of Pennsylvania.
piece of shit.
But I realized that sometimes you have to make choices between two of the lesser evils. Leaving this alone.
Letting
meeting them all.
Pennsylvanians make money off it or letting me make money off it. And
That's not the way to go.
can't let
Please
you guys
support
do
this
it.
bill. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Westmoreland. Representative
Big Molly! Chair Brickman!
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought we had a dual thing going here with our representative. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I also appreciate the honesty for what I believe was from the gentleman from Montgomery County when he asked, "What's in your wallet?" and admitted this bill is about money.
There it is, finally.
I rise today in opposition to the bill, but we first have to ask why HB 1200? Still with a broken wing, facing painful shoulder surgery and recommendations from people that said, hey, don't worry about those opiates. Why don't you check out marijuana, medical marijuana?
This guy high right
And
now.
Madam Speaker, I have to say, Googling get my card, it would take me about 5 minutes and $50 to get all the marijuana I wanted.
True.
Elevated THC, gummies, across the board. So why today? Why 1200? The good gentleman from Allegheny County, he said these stats are correct, but prohibition doesn't work. Hey, Madam Speaker, we don't have prohibition in Pennsylvania. We're one of the leading states in the nation for medical marijuana sales.
There you go.
So why the drive for more money here in Harrisburg? I have to say, today we're rising for our parents, for law enforcement, for mental health and to listen to our addiction recovery community. Because in Westmoreland County, our Children's Bureau has confirmed what we heard earlier, that the CDC has said 10 and under, triple ingestion cases from elevated THC in our youth. And this bill is much more than just getting high and eating a box of Oreos so the state can get more money. Madam Speaker, Cheech and Chong will be driving in PA, and they're going to be driving high. Law enforcement across the country has seen driving incidents with impaired drivers increase in recreational marijuana states. More accidents, more fatalities, and still no ability for law enforcement to detect THC impairment in the field. From our mental health perspective, once again, there is no doubt high-potency cannabis significantly raises the risk of psychosis, depression, anxiety. But this isn't coming from me. This is Psychology Today, Lancet Psychiatry, JAMA. They all show young brains.
You almost started talking about the money, and then you just went into this.
Early exposure to THC disrupts brain development. Our gentleman from California said, or from Allegheny County said, well, their brains are almost all the way developed. Recognize what we are exchanging just to get more money here in Harrisburg. Our addiction recovery communities have also raised red flags. These families have felt the pain of addiction. Their voices should be heard, and cannabis use disorder is real and rising. 1 out of 6 adolescents and nearly half of daily marijuana users are suffering from cannabis use disorder. This prime sponsor is from Philadelphia. And Temple University is also from Philadelphia. Madam Speaker, let me remind this chamber of the study in 2023. Recreational use is associated with risk factors for cannabis use disorder, including easier access to cannabis, stronger cannabis potency, greater variety of cannabis products, exposure to cannabis in advertising and sales. The bill before us today will give us more of the same. More addiction, more cannabis use disorder, all for more money here in Harrisburg. I urge a no vote on not just this bill, but on the future bills that will be coming before this chamber, because Pennsylvania can't afford to sell our souls for more money. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman on that question. Chair,
I mean, he started out strong, but then he just
never talked about it.
He rambled a bit, yeah.
Another person. Yeah, that guy was high on opioids, I think. He was on painkillers and shit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Ooh, he's sounding...
I've served the past 3 years on the Special Subcommittee of Healthcare, doing the hearings on legalizing cannabis.
Can you pronounce that last
with
name,
the
John?
sponsor of this bill.
Twardzik.
We learned a lot. We listened a lot.
It's got my name in there.
Today I'm speaking with a background in family business, and knowing that in family business and in business we are always worried about the safety of our employees. Marijuana positivity rates are the highest in the workplace. They are at an all-time high. This bill makes it worse because if we legalize marijuana, we will have more users. Quest Diagnostics found that marijuana positivity for drug tests increased 2.5 times in states where marijuana was legalized for non-medical sales. Increases in positivity rates for marijuana in the general U.S. workforce were most striking in states that have enacted recreational use statutes since 2016. So if we have more users, it's going to multiply the workplace safety issues that are associated with drug use. We're facing greater employer liability, greater health care costs, and greater insurance costs. Even worse, our children and families are in jeopardy if we're inviting more marijuana use in our state. This isn't an area we want government to give free for all. there's one place we need government to continue to protect the parents and children of our state from the human suffering we would usher through marijuana legalization. My colleague, the good doctor from Allegheny, stated that there were no medical studies, but looking through a list, there are a lot of medical studies, including Kate Appelman, the Executive Vice President of Pennsylvania Clinical Programs at Care and Treatment Centers, where people who, their patients have experienced THC-induced psychosis. It was once rare, and now it's common. In a lot of patients, they're referred. The Pennsylvania State Director of the Academy of Medical Ethics, Dr. Eric Hussar, said...
So we're back to the medical and health and moral arguments, and we have yet to hear an argument about why are you trying to hand this all to your friends? I don't know.
Controlled opposition, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're being genuine. They really, I think the Republicans feel like they're using the right angle here. I think they're a little out of touch with people a little more mine and your ages, especially your age.
Yeah, I'm not even really a pothead, but I just have the perception if I'm going to, I should be allowed to do what I want on my private property and not have the government just...
I think we'd all agree with you, yeah.
Yeah.
So the government says, okay, it's recreational legal, and your temptation is to be like, nice, that's what we wanted. But that's not, it's recreationally legal for you to buy it from our friends only.
Yeah.
That's no longer quite the freedom you thought you had a second ago.
Yeah.
So.
You were just like the Dems arguments where you're restricting access by having it illegal, so why...
I mean, these people already try to shut down my YouTube channel. It'd be like having the same trannies trying to sell weed.
Yeah.
It's like it ain't going to work out great for me.
Yeah.
So if you want to smoke weed legally, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It might appear to be good for like a year, and then it all comes crashing down and gets more expensive and lower quality, like everything the government does.
Yeah. On House Bill 1200, I think this bill could be called the juvenile use cannabis legislation.
Now he's make kids.
They call it adult use cannabis legislation.
It's a losing argument, and they're going to lose anyway. But
yeah, because if you care so much, just like implement current laws you have for tobacco smoke and like cigarettes, just like have designated areas where you can smoke.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. The Democrats are actually saying the same thing. Is like these, and I'm like, because it's very easy to agree with that.
That's almost the exact
They just nobody on either side is pointing out how this affects the pipeline of control and money. All the money will go to people who will go make movies and TV shows like The Last of Us, where she's going to be a dad. Did you see that?
I played the Last of Us Part 2.
That's what this bill will do, is a bunch of lesbians on TV becoming dads.
Yeah,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, for those of you watching the show right now, it gets bad. It gets worse than it already is.
A punishment at all. Comparatively speaking, if you're under 21 and you try to buy alcohol, it's up to a $500 fine. $500.
It's not that these aren't good points and there's not hypocrisy and things like that. It's
so, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, but
he called her Mister, and then he was like, "Oh." What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Yeah, but the problem is that you can really get addicted on anything, including legal stuff. Like you could get addicted to certain foods, and your skin color will change, like or you'll suffer from unhealthy side effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally believe. I think everything should be legal. There should be a category called American adult, whether that's an age or a test you got to take or something. But if you're in that category, and it's the privacy of your own property and shit, I would go as far as to say is do whatever the fuck you want. But if I can go do whatever I want, but every go-kart racetrack I go to is owned by a Democrat from Philadelphia, and then I go eat, and that's owned by a Democrat from Philadelphia, and then I drive my car home that I bought from a Democrat in Philadelphia. I don't like that. I don't like that.
That nobody under 21 should be using it. But this bill essentially
Agreed, Robbie C. Addiction has been...
He's got an argument going on here.
Because there's hardly any consequence if you do. A warning letter.
If you consume anything in overabundance, that's an addiction nowadays. Yeah,
I do, but I believe in adult human beings' right to choose whether or not they want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Speaker, I urge a no vote.
So I'm really not for the moral
Chair
grandstanding.
recognizes the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Luzerne.
Luzerne!
Unfortunate last name. I can see lots of puns coming from it.
No, that's
Thank you,
the
Madam Speaker.
township or something, isn't it? County?
This is my first time speaking on the House floor because I feel
Oh, yeah,
compelled to
Luzerne,
do
sorry.
so due to the magnitude of the decision that's before us today.
A lot of first-time
House
speakers.
Bill 1200 is an experiment on our children, our families, our businesses, and Commonwealth. It's an experiment that has failed miserably in other states that have legalized marijuana at the state level, a federally illegal Schedule I drug. While all small businesses are important, I want to specifically address today the serious consequences this bill will have for our manufacturers. Manufacturing is the engine that drives Pennsylvania's economy, adding over $100 billion in value every year, directly employing over 500,000 Pennsylvanians and sustaining millions of additional Pennsylvania jobs in supply chains and distribution networks.
Is he going to talk about it?
Because manufacturing is the sector that adds the most value, the jobs in that industry have the best wages and benefits in the marketplace. These are family-sustaining jobs. Manufacturing employers are also significant local taxpayers, sustaining the quality of life in the communities where they operate by upholding the local
This is kind of on the
tax
right
base.
track.
All licenses, all permits and insurances for manufacturers presuppose a safe working environment. Manufacturing often includes deploying heavy machinery, bladed instruments, extreme temperatures, chemical reactions, and/or high voltage, among other factors where human error could cause death or injury. Manufacturers are subject to the Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation Act at the state level and the requirements of OSHA at the federal level. These legal responsibilities are not optional. Pennsylvania is already burdened with a workforce crisis where employers cannot find enough qualified new hires to fully staff their operations at current levels of production. By mass commercializing the federally illegal Schedule I product, marijuana, the Commonwealth would be promoting increased drug use, thereby intensifying the workforce crisis and cutting off citizens from potentially having a family-sustaining
No,
job.
not really. Went off in the left field.
Fields require pre-employment drug screening, including
Yeah,
CDL
they just
drug
assume that
testers, manufacturing employees,
people will just
and
become
healthcare
like
workers.
more of an addict than they are already for some reason. I just don't get that.
The family of our immediate past
Even if they do, I think that's their right to choose to be a big fucking loser if they want to. If you want to fucking grow a forest, light it on fire, and live in it, I don't care.
Drug use
If it's
is a
your
bright
forest.
line divide that employers cannot ignore under penalty of law. The current situation with Pennsylvania's medical marijuana program is already a significant problem for employers because of ambiguities in the law following the Department of Health's expansion of approved use of marijuana for health conditions that already had FDA-approved treatments. Until these problems are addressed and corrected, there is absolutely no reason to consider any expansion of marijuana use in the Commonwealth. This issue is very personal to my district and very personal to Luzerne County. Luzerne County is ravaged right now with drug addiction. We're ranked third in the Commonwealth for opioid abuse and overdoses. I would encourage my colleagues from Luzerne County to seriously consider the weight of this decision. Let's not make this already terrible situation worse than it is. I will be a no vote on House Bill 1200. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman on that question. Chair
Yeah, again, like that
recognizes the
last guy,
gentleman
he
from
was
Philadelphia,
onto
Representative
something
Khan.
interesting in regards to
Thank you, Madam
bureaucratic
Speaker.
nonsense, but
As
he
a
just
healthcare
never got to
professional,
it.
I think it's
That's
important
Luzerne
that I
County.
address some of the health concerns about this bill. I can tell you as a healthcare provider, I actually feel really good about this bill, especially because of the protections for children. The first thing I want to highlight is the fact that this is
Tariq
a
Khan.
state store model. Currently in Pennsylvania, state stores are used to children trying to come and buy products in their store. And they're used to dealing with that. They're used to people that are coming in intoxicated trying to get product. By having this go through a state store model, that adds a safeguard that's going to be helpful for our kids. Additionally, when we're looking at advertisements for
4
this
o'clock.
product,
Holy crap. I didn't think this
bill
would take this long.
specifically
When do you
prohibits
start?
advertisements that would appeal to
Oh,
kids.
we got an hour and a half
It's going
right
to be
now.
on television.
Okay.
I think 85% or more have to be over 21 in that market. If they're going to be promoting their product, they can't do it in spaces where kids are going to be watching. They can't be using cartoons. They can't use emojis. They can't use flavors which are attractive to kids. I think it's also important that in this bill there's actually
Just
safeguards
all
to prevent
talking
where this is
around
being sold.
the
So it is
concept
at
of
least
who
1,000
gets to make the money.
from a school.
So maybe there is some teamwork. Maybe there's some uniparty shit going on here. I don't know. As a healthcare provider, I feel great about how this is going to affect kids.
Talk very briefly about the
Okay.
issue of the harm
Okay,
with
Middle Eastern
cannabis.
Colin Farrell.
And I can tell you that currently there is an
Khalik
unregulated
Farhan.
market. There's an illegal market. There are people that are using extremely high potency
Robbie C.
doses of
Our
cannabis.
state is run by simpletons. Yes, so is yours, buddy. I'm just assuming. I don't know what state. Just going to guess.
Drive to the Capitol, you can see, get cannabis, no medical card.
I'm 32 and I love flavors. Yeah, what's with the no flavors? Some bullshit.
Profound chronic effects because of
Definitely uniparty.
and this bill actually will limit
This
that.
guy's eyes
So
are
for
close
single
together.
use, there'll be 5
Man, he really, you know who he reminds me of? Oh, fuck.
Colin Farrell?
No, first, yeah, but there's a different dude.
buying a package, there's a cap of 25 milligrams.
Is he an actor?
This
Yeah.
is very
What movies has he been in?
It's a very
Kind of John Hamm, maybe?
John Hamm? Yeah, I guess so. A bit scrawnier, a bit skinnier.
He's like a equally as gay John Hamm from Iraq. So then not Ham, because that's halal. He's John Chicken.
John Chicken.
Good job, John
The
Chicken.
gentleman on that question, Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lancaster.
Lancaster, the gentleman. Is she the only one allowed to wear green? This debate brought to you by Big Pharma. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's the only one that dressed for the occasion, I guess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this proposal and will once again raise many of the same concern that I raised over 9 years ago
Oh,
when we
okay.
debated the medical marijuana program.
Let's listen. Oh! Ah! Did they stop it?
Uh-oh. What happened?
I don't know. It just cut out.
Is it still live on YouTube or
Rick Moranis, though. That's not bad. Yeah, it's loading. Just give it a second.
All right.
It's not the most high-powered stream of all time.
Regulate it. We should legalize it because prohibition does not work. Yet at the same time, we hear points about how we will prohibit marketing to children. Madam Speaker, how does that work? If prohibition doesn't work, as many of my colleagues have argued, then it doesn't work.
He brings up a good point.
The underlying bill,
It's a good point, but it's
it purports to fix the community inputs and falls short. It also fails to address the issue of federal preemption. Many of our current state laws, and more importantly, the federal
Brian
laws
Cutler.
that surround many of the issues that are very important that were raised in March of 2016 have not yet been addressed in the medical program. Issues with insurance, issues with workers' comp, an issue regarding our constitutional right to bear arms, field
That's a good
sobriety
point.
for DUIs expressed by our law enforcement, many state and national licensing issues, federal driving issues, and unemployment laws. Madam Speaker, the medical program has failed to address those issues in its current form. This bill does nothing to address it. The federal government has failed us by failing to hold the reclassification hearings that they promised. So quite frankly, this bill is premature. We've heard a lot of arguments, both public policy, for and against. We've heard the discussion about revenue. But, Madam Speaker, it is very clear to me this bill falls short on revenue, it falls short on public policy, and most importantly, it doesn't deal with the issue of federal preemption. I was 9 years ago a no, and I will continue to be a no until those issues are addressed. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman on that question. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Center, Representative Bunninghoff.
Ooh, that's our guys. Yep. Kerry Benioff. He's a rhino, I think.
Benioff?
Yeah. I'm going to get myself in trouble. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his positions on everything are.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Each one of us, at least those that have opposed, rise hoping we're going to give that magic speech that's going to suddenly wake everyone up. I don't intend to do that. Frankly, some of the members before spoke very well, but Madam Speaker, I do want to share a few thoughts, if I may, because I think Representative Krupa did a bang-up job and really outlined a lot that we need to be thinking about. Others talked about its unconstitutionality, the fact it's controlled Schedule I drug in the federal level, and somehow we magically think we're going to override that. I would ask the members to keep in mind when the medical marijuana bill was done, there's a significant debate, and I'm not sure if it even got totally answered yet, about is the business going to be an entire cash business? Who's going to be federally insuring this or state banks insuring this? I don't even know if we have any state banks left. But that's a serious concern because this is an awful lot of money if those who support it are anywhere close to the amount of money they think this could raise. We know in other instances when a lot of cash is flowing different places, it's fraught with problems and an appetite for theft and other things. Madam Speaker, one of the things I want to raise is I'd ask the members to think about what this vote really means. I heard it said that we're raising more money. The government just has this insatiable appetite to always need more money. And when we need more money, somehow we just change the rules of the game or the description of something and we make it legal because somehow that makes it more attractive. We heard about Colorado. We've seen many instances all across, and I'm not going to belabor those. But the last thing I really want to throw out is please think about how serious of a discussion and an issue that you're being asked to vote on. This is serious public policy. I'm going to throw a couple of numbers out real quick. I know our House rules say don't ask a question you already know the answer to, so I'm going to ask you the question because I'm sure you probably don't know the answer. But what does the number 446, 432, 430, and 393 have in common? Those are the average statistics from the year 2020 to 2023 of the number of people that die in our own state every month because our state has failed to deal with the drug overdose problem.
It's kind of dishonest to like blame all that on marijuana,
may not seem like
though.
a lot, but it's at least 3 times as many people in this room or should be in this room. But for a better comparison, the average 747 Jet Air accommodates 366 people. Well, if you had 366 people going down in a plane every month, you would think that was a problem. So what are we going to do to make it better? We're going to legalize another known mind-altering drug under the disguise of we need to raise the money, and we're going to legalize it for recreational purposes. We're not doing this to help one medical event or medical issue. That's already been done. It's being strictly to raise revenue in some cases, but to legalize something that we know causes harm. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me, but I would ask you to think about it. When you look back on your career, did you pass legislation? Did you do initiatives that reduce the number of people dying of overdoses? Yes, this last year we had some reduction, but no, we stood here today, passed public policy. Some will be excited because it's legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. Madam Speaker, I cannot do that. And I'd ask each one of you before you leave here today, when your career's over, are you going to look back on this day and this vote and say, boy, am I glad I voted to
None of them
legalize
give a
another
shit.
recreational drug.
You know it.
I doubt you will, and I won't be doing it. I'll be a no vote. Thank you.
Yeah, so half of it was fine. The other half is just like, what are you talking
Oh my
about?
God, you turned into a guy.
Allegheny County, Chair of the Health Committee, Representative Frankel.
Thank you. Turned into a large black man in a suit.
First, let me start by saying how much I appreciate the work of my colleagues on the Health Committee, both Republicans and Democrats. And in particular,
Looks
I
like
want to
Bob
recognize
Saget.
the work of the two subcommittee co-chairs, our former colleague, Representative Schemmel, and Representative Rick Krajewski, the prime sponsor of this bill. Those hearings that we had were really every single stakeholder that you can imagine had an opportunity to help inform the legislation that we drafted. My Republican colleagues were particularly thoughtful, and many of their comments and concerns are certainly not only informed this piece of legislation, but I believe that much of this reflects their concerns.
The girl in the
that were
background looks
reflected
like
by
I feel.
Democrats
She's
as
like,
well,
please.
particularly around public health issues. But Pennsylvanians want legal cannabis.
Not the issue.
Poll after poll shows it. Time and again.
All right.
And if we don't believe the poll,
Easy there, Bob. They are succeeding in making this a discussion about do people want it or not, and totally avoiding the topic of who gets all of the money.
Yeah, and in response, like Republicans are making it, or some Republicans are making it about like hard drugs, like falsely conflate them with weed and cannabis when that's not really.
Well, Benioff especially knows what this is all about, and so his whole bullshit roundabout speech kind of tells me what I need to know, but whatever this fucking guy's saying. Whatever you're saying, Bob.
Yeah.
I like your giant pin thing there, though. It's apparently a rule. None of you have any arguments other than it smells or you're retarded. I don't know if you're talking about us or the Republicans, but
Well, it sounds like both sides are saying we're retarded. The Dems are saying you need proper people to distribute it, and Republicans are saying you're too retarded to consume it. Otherwise, you'll kill
it's
yourself.
an interesting insight. Fundamentally, what's being said by both sides is that the average American is a fucking retard, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, anyway, this is, again, if you're recently joined us, Pennsylvania Live. This is live from Harrisburg right now, is debating before they vote on House Bill 1200, the legalization of recreational marijuana. Buried in that bill, and the reason I take issue with it, is that it also forgives all marijuana-related crimes. Less of an issue for me. The big issue for me is that it allows the state of Pennsylvania, currently run and controlled by Josh Shapiro, to basically set up a whole parallel supply chain economy marijuana industry, just go right around the existing medical one, and give all of those positions in those money-making businesses, whether it's grower or, shipper or supplier or fucking distributor, whatever. Those are all going to become blue-haired transsexuals, like people are in every other aspect that currently controls your life. And so that is the power play going on here. The Republicans are putting up quite a big stink. All the other bills that got voted on today went by really quick, and then this one's been going on for now almost 2 hours. And you're seeing a stream of Pennsylvania representatives coming up, Republicans and Democrats, and making these arguments why they should and why they shouldn't pass it. And they're all talking about the medical and moral issues of it, and what no one is talking about is, to me, the main issue, which is that they're going to capture the entire industry and make a bunch of money off of it. It's just another way that we'll be slaves. But the Democrats, I think, are using the correct strategy where they're just focusing on is that, like you in the chat, this is what the people want, which is true. And they're saying things that are easy to agree with, like an adult should be able to decide. I agree with that as well. What they're not talking about is who controls handing out the licenses, who controls the business licenses, who controls whether or not you can grow it and sell it. And like somebody said earlier, the state will be the only purchaser. It's like Walmart. It's like trying to get a product on the shelves of Walmart. What do you got to do? Well, Walmart gets to dictate the price it'll be sold at. And what they're going to pay you for it. And you end up pretty much losing money. It's really hard to make money at Walmart, so I hear. So it'll basically push out all the small people and leave you with a few gigantic Democrat-controlled corporations running the entire thing.
Yeah, those are the people I want to hear from, like the people who actually sell cannabis in PA, like what their thoughts on this specifically are. The problem is that none of these people are familiar with the cannabis business, really, like the ground.
Well, I mean, that's the question. Are they familiar with it? And this is just all performative, and they know exactly what they're doing, and the Republicans are working with the Democrats, or, I mean, these are all seem to be older people, especially on the Republican side. Are they genuinely doing their best, and they think they're making the best argument they can, and they're just out of touch?
Does not work. I would agree. Basically, people will do it anyway. If this is true, then by their own logic, legally restricting cannabis to adults will not prevent adolescents from accessing cannabis. Criminalizing gambling was used as an example.
Same thing other people have said. So now, protect the kids. I mean, yes.
Think of the children. That iconic Simpsons line.
But I can tell you what legalizing gambling is currently doing for our youth. Due to the decriminalization.
Sandman Trials, is it a clown show? I mean, it is. Whether or not it's an intentional one is still up for debate.
Every cafeteria in America is filled with 14-year-olds placing bets.
Well, Jack, if they don't vote on it after this guy, might have to end this stream.
Okay.
When I started it 2 hours ago, I didn't know it was going to go for 2 hours. I thought they were just going to fucking vote.
Well, how many are left to give speeches?
There's no way to tell. I think they're all taking the opportunity to get on camera on an issue they know people are going to, like, read about tomorrow.
Unable to get beer when you were 18 because it was only legally to be sold in licensed beer distributors? Anyone? Okay.
Look at the guy in the back.
Kids will get weed illegally and it will be more dangerous. HB 1200 makes cannabis accessible for adults. It makes it more dangerous for kids. Unlike alcohol, the only purpose of recreational marijuana is to change one's state of mind. With every hit,
unlike alcohol,
it purposely reduces
that guy behind him
one's
is talking
judgment
mad shit. You can
and
tell.
One's conscience. I've dealt with too many kids who went from taking a few hits from a party on Saturday night to self-medicating by smoking joints on Wednesday nights in isolation of their own homes. These students become addicted to the high. It becomes most important. They live to smoke.
It's their choice,
man. They quit playing sports, they drop out of band, their grades plummet, and they alienate themselves from their friends.
I don't know,
and their
Jack.
family.
I don't know, man.
Their endless opportunities are replaced by catastrophic.
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that if you're in this role as a politician representing people and the goal is to stop this from happening, then you should use the argument that stops it from happening, not the one that gets you reelected, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. My main thing is, again, like, if they're doing it on their private property, leave them alone. But just make sure that they're not doing it in public areas where they're not supposed to do it, because you don't want everywhere every public space, like every park, every driveway, etc., becoming like a hangout for people to smoke pot.
Every single person voting in the affirmative today will bear the responsibility.
They don't care about that. Bear the response. You're on the wrong side of history. They don't fucking care. They're Democrats. The fucking black lady changed into a black guy in front of our eyes. They don't care.
They'll rewrite the history.
They're doing fucking Haitian voodoo body transforms on the podium. You think they care?
They'll rewrite the history books.
They'll transform them from women into men. What happened there, by the way? She just vanished, and now it's a guy, and no one said anything.
She called it quits before us.
Clearly and concisely that this is an unconstitutional bill.
Back to that.
No one even stood to refute that because it was irrefutable. Yet we ignored an oath and voted it as constitutional, knowing...
Well, they haven't voted yet. I think I was starting to say, Mike Jones. I was starting to say that this will pass. The Democrats will win. They control the Pennsylvania House. So because we kind of know the outcome, and this is all really blackpilling, we're probably going to end it if they don't vote on it after Mike Jones, and I don't think they will. But I started this thinking I'd do like a 30-minute stream and be able to get on with my day, but I'm starting to wonder. So, but yeah, if you're in the chat and you're finding yourself in agreement that, yeah, marijuana should be legal, we agree too. We don't think the entire industry should be owned by Democrats and their friends. All that money will then be used to make more tranny movies, et cetera, et cetera.
Here in Pennsylvania, not to mention the selection, much lower in Maryland. Then we talked about profit. Well, let's clarify. Revenue and profit aren't the same thing. This might generate $500 million in revenue or sales. The profits are projected at a meager $16 million.
What?
Million. So we're going to spend $370 million up front in the form of a $270 million spend with a $100 million bond. $370 million up front, no sales at all for 2 or 3 years. Rather than leveraging existing state store infrastructure, dispensary infrastructure, or better yet, private infrastructure with all of the existing vape shops that would actually provide economic opportunity for young entrepreneurs, many of whom are people of color, as was previously stated. Instead, we're going to spend $370 million for a $16 million annual return. That's 25 years just to get your investment back, but that doesn't stop there because you got carrying cost on that money and on those bonds. We are actually going to spend more money than we are going to bring in. There is no return on investment. Which leads me to my final point. If you ever wanted to know why we should privatize absolutely everything possible in this state, people have been making money selling weed for a long, long time, and only the state of Pennsylvania could come up with a scenario where we create a monopoly on selling marijuana and find a way to lose money doing it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Delaware County, Representative.
All right. I think we're going to have to call it there.
I think Mike, that last guy was pretty good.
Yeah, he finally kind of, let me shut this volume off real quick. He finally kind of got to the crux of the issue there, although still not quite exactly how we've been talking about. But yeah, the joke of it all is that we're actually going to lose money on all of this at the end of the day too. So there's no fucking reason the state of Pennsylvania should be in charge of this. Jack, he's waving goodbye. We'll say goodbye to him too. See you later, Craig. You look all right. He looks like fucking Aaron Rodgers a little bit, like an old Aaron Rodgers.
Kind of does.
But it was cool that you walked in here. We got to get about our days. Thank you, Jack Kentner, for joining us. Go check him out over on KinoFlex. Just past 200 subscribers. If you need movie reviews or tips or interesting insights, I sound like that woman. Interesting insights, check him out. KinoFlex, KINOFLEX on YouTube. And Thank you for joining me. As always, take it easy. Got a couple new videos out last week. There was a new one out earlier today, and I'm going to go work on another one. So that is it for today. Where's my camera? I am John Ward. The OGTLT. The only reason weed is federally banned is because it would crash the textile timber monopoly. We leave you with that thought from the OGTLT. Until next time, remember, you're a world champion. There it is. Don't let your memes be dreams.